Hello everyone, GoldenNova here. Today, we're covering another topic chosen by my Patreon's Quasar Commander, and it's one that, in combination with a few others, has been getting some notoriety in recent times. While on the face of it, it may appear to be a series of cards that spend their time pulling levers and fiddling with knobs until the round is over, to a select few who are dedicated and skilled enough at the craft, they have found themselves the wielders of a truly terrifying power. We've already covered one half of this amalgam, Rika, as well as its subsequent support over multiple roundup videos, but today we'll be exploring the other half. Premiering in the April 2021 collector's set Ghosts from the Past, Sunavalon and its component archetypes, Sunvine and Sunseed, were piloted in the Vrains anime by Spectre, Varys' right-hand man in the Knights of Hanoi, and one of the children taken during the Lost Incident, forging him into a duelist of exceptional quality, using the power of plants to choke the life out of his opponents. And with a bit of knowledge, you too can wield that same power as well. So get your seed packets, watch as your strategy thrives on the vine, then we'll go out looking for some subjects we can splice in to strengthen our saplings. Let's make like a tree and explain Sunavalon. Before we start the episode, Dueling Nexus has launched a makeshift campaign this month for the Nyx Fumo plushie. Gaze into her glorious visage, her dueling prowess, her stare that betrays a head emptier than any void. We've got until the end of the month to fund this thing, so don't delay. Not only does purchasing this get you a ton of freebies on Dueling Nexus, including credits, contributor time, and rarity tokens, all profits are being donated to Community Forests International, a non-profit organization focused on restoring forests in places like Canada, Zanzibar, and Mozambique. Get a cute plushie to add to your collection and help fund a good cause all at the same time. Thank you all so much for your time, and now, back to the video. So, what's the deal with Sunavalon? Well, as mentioned previously, they're actually comprised of three archetypes: Sunavalon, Sunvine, and Sunseed, but they all work as one harmonious collective. The names just help to categorize which support works for which parts of the deck. As for their specific qualities, they're all Earth attribute plant-type monsters that focus on making and reviving Link monsters to pull off very powerful plays. The general idea is to get a Sunavalon monster into the extra monster zone, evolving into bigger and stronger Avalons, and supporting them with the Sunvine Link monsters who do everything from recovering life points to being outrageous battle bruisers, all built on a foundation of the main deck Sunseed monsters, and I can't think of a better place to start with than this one. Sunseed Genius Loci is a level 1 normal monster with 0 attack and 600 defense. This seed can only be harvested from the sacred tree once every 1,000 years, and will become the guardian spirit of its land after 1,000 more. This is the core card of our deck. So many cards are going to rely on this one specifically to function, and honestly, I can think of worse fates. As a normal monster, Unexpected Die is a great way to summon this out, not to mention 1-for-1. And when it comes to plants, there's all kinds of cards we can use to call this out and revive it. You could say that making Genius Loci a plant was a smart idea. Sunseed Shadow is a level 1 monster with 0 attack and 400 defense, and if you control a plant normal monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can banish this card from your grave, then target a linked Link 2 or lower Sunavalon or Sunvine monster you control to special summon a monster with the same name from your extra deck, but negate its effects. Also, you can't special summon for the rest of the turn except plant monsters. So we have a monster that helps you Link climb, first by acting as material, then getting you a matching Link monster to give you access to more Link rating, causing your growth to skyrocket. The plant lock is a little frustrating, but we've already got plenty of powerful options, so in a way, this keeps us from dipping into the usual pool of generically powerful Link monsters. And let's be real, if they allowed that, they would really cast a big shadow over the thing. Sunvine Maiden is a level 1 monster with 0 attack and defense, and when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets any number of plant monsters you control that were special summoned from the extra deck, then as a quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, and if you do, negate that effect. And while on the field, your opponent can't target Sunavalon or Sunvine spell or trap cards you control with card effects. So we have a hand trap that protects against one targeted effect against one of your extra deck summoned plants, not necessarily our links, and then keeps our back row safe. It's interesting to have some insurance against things like Imperm, and our back row is pretty powerful, but it also feels a little disjointed. Now, nothing is stopping us from just summoning this in other ways, there's no lock on this card, but it does seem like we're going out of our way a lot just for a little thorn in our opponent's side. Sunseed Twin is a level 2 monster with 0 attack and 800 defense, and if this card is normal or special summoned, while you control a Sunavalon Link monster, you can target a level 4 or lower plant normal monster in your grave and special summon it. You can also banish this card in your grave and a Link monster you control. If you have 2 or more plant Link monsters with the same name as each other in your grave, special summon one of them. This will combo perfectly with some cards we'll talk about later, but as a bit of a preview, we're going to be special summoning this to get back our Loci, and we'll later recycle our Link monsters, even if we do have to banish a few to make it work. We can already see from Shadow that having multiple Link monsters of the same name is gonna be a trend, so Twin builds off of that, and even lets you keep the effect to boot. Now if they would just stop staring at me, that would be great. Why does the plant archetype about growing giant trees have the most unsettling pixies in them? I signed up for Links, not Fey nonsense. Alright, that does it for the main deck monsters. Now we have a whole lot of Links to talk about. First up, let's cover the Sunvines real quick, because they all share a few things. One, they all require a plant normal monster as material, and if a Sunavalon Link monster you control leaves the field by a card effect, they're destroyed. The idea being that they're part of the Avalon tree, and if it goes, they go. So, you know, no pressure. First up is Sunvine Gardener, a Link 1 monster with 600 attack, and when an attack is declared involving this card, linked to a Sunavalon Link monster, and an opponent's monster, you can activate this effect, which makes the damage you take from that battle halved. Also, when this card is destroyed by battle, end of the battle phase after the damage step. This acts as a kind of final line of defense, helping to keep you from getting stomped by a big attack push by taking less damage and ending the push on the spot. That being said, it does little else, and because effect removal is always on the table, it's less than effective. Seriously, where are all these Gardener cards coming from? This is absurd. Sunvine Healer is a Link 1 monster with 600 attack, and if this card is special summoned, you can target a Sunavalon Link monster on the field to gain life points equal to its Link rating times 300. And when your plant Link monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can gain 600 life points. This helps fuel some of our effects that care about life point gain, and gives us a lot of synergy with Aromages. And trust me, there are some really good ones we get to work with. And since none of these effects are once per turn, you can go ham with summoning these, getting the initial life point gain, and stacking the damaging effect, which is probably a reason it's limited to 1 in the current format, but I'll save my rants about that until we get to the other inexplicably limited card we have in this archetype. As far as what the card itself is capable of, it's so pivotal to this deck that you could even call it a heal turn. Sunvine Thrasher is a Link 1 monster with 800 attack, and if this card is special summoned, you can target a Sunavalon Link monster on the field to have this card gain 800 attack times the Link rating of that target. And when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the grave, you can special summon that monster to your zone a Link monster points to, but negate its effects. This is going to be one of our main muscle cards because this can grow up pretty quick. If you only have a Link 1 Sunavalon, Thrasher's only going to go up to 1600, which isn't really anything to write home about. But hit a Link 4, and we're looking at a 4000 attack Link 1 that steals monsters. Though be careful, unless your opponent is also on plants, this effect gets shut off by one of our own monsters, Sunseed Shadow. But that's just one minor inconvenience, and hopefully, if you find it getting in the way of probably our most aggressive option, you may feel like taking Shadow and cutting it from the list. Alright, now it's time to move on to the Sunavalons, and they also have a little quirk. While on the field, they can't be targeted for attacks, but they don't prevent your opponent from attacking directly. And since they all have 0 attack, they act more like continuous spells than an actual monster, though only most of the time. First up is Sunavalon Dryas, a Link 1 monster requiring a level 4 or lower plant monster as material. If this card is Link summoned in the extra monster zone using Sunseed Genius Loci as material, you can add a Sunvine Speller Trap card from your deck to your hand. And once per turn, if you take battle or effect damage, you can gain that many life points, and if you do, special summon a Sunvine monster from your extra deck. This is going to be our main way of getting out our Sunvines, because otherwise we'll be spending a whole bunch of material on a bunch of dinky Link 1s, so this greatly cuts down on the cost. Thankfully, this comes built in with its own combo. Not only will the Sunvine spell we'll be searching summon out Sunseed Twin, getting back the loci we used as material, but will deal damage to us, triggering Dryas's life point gain and summoning effect. It's a pretty good starting point for a combo, which is why this card is now limited in the TCG. That's right, for some reason we can keep the whole Snake Eye engine at full power, but a dedicated combo enabler for a plant pile? Oh, that simply will not stand. This has easily got to be one of the wildest hits in the game. If they're trying to fix things, they're barking up the wrong tree. Sunavalon Dryadus is a Link 2 monster, requiring 2 plant monsters as material, including a Sunavalon Link monster. And twice per turn, if you take battle or effect damage, you can gain that many life points, and if you do, special summon a Sunvine monster from your extra deck. Yup, it's more of Dryas's last effect, with the Link arrows to match. You can basically link up into this if you plan on running into more damage so that you can pull out more Sunvines, but in the end, that's really all it is. A rung in the Link ladder that gets you more stuff, which makes it helpful, but it hasn't really borne fruit yet. Sunavalon Daphne is a Link 2 monster, requiring any 2 plant monsters as material, and you contribute a monster, then target 2 plant Link monsters in your grave, except copies of this card, and return them to the extra deck. We're going to be playing through a lot of our Links, especially because 2 of our most important ones are limited, hint hint, so having a monster that recycles them as we Link climb is going to be crucial for our long-term and short-term game plan. A nice piece of utility to keep on your belt, which is about as much value as I can expect from a member of Mystery Inc. Sunavalon Dryanome is a Link 3 monster that requires 2 or more plant monsters as material. It has the same summoning effect upon taking damage as Dryas, but this time can trigger thrice per turn. And once per turn, when a monster this card points to is targeted for an attack, you can negate that attack, and if you do, move that monster you control to another of your main monster zones. This can move your monsters out of the zones your Sunavalons are pointing to so you can summon more Sunvines. Remember that even though you're not properly Link summoning them, they are coming from the extra deck and they're Link monsters, so they do still need those arrows to be summoned to your main monster zones. This is another intermediate stage before we get to the big guns, so you could say this Dryanome is here to wet your whistle. Sunavalon Melius is a Link 3 monster that requires 2 or more plant monsters as material, including a Link monster. If this card is Link summoned, you can special summon a Sunseed Genius Loci from your grave, and once per turn, you can target a Sunvine Link monster you control that this card points to, and this turn, it can attack a number of times each battle phase up to the number of Sunavalon Link monsters you currently control. Now, using that last effect can be a little tricky. It has to be pointing to a Sunvine, but because it only has top, left, and right arrows, you'll need to find the material necessary to summon this into your main monster zone while maintaining a Sunavalon in your extra monster zone. But if you can manage that, you can take a Thrasher with outrageous attack power and help it to smash your opponent's face in multiple times. But the more useful and widespread usage is another Link Climber, as it's a Link 3 that summons an additional monster, applying no restrictions in the process. And while Access Code Talker isn't strictly in the cards for us, since Loci is a normal monster, it's not valid material, and good luck Link summoning with no downward pointing arrows, there are all kinds of other options out there, making for a fantastic bridge that can pivot into a game ender. I gotta ask though, why is Melius built like a Courage the Cowardly Dog creature? I'm half expecting it to ask me to return the slab. Sunavalon Dryatrentier is a Link 4 monster that requires 2 or more Link monsters as material. If Link summoned, you can add a Sunavalon spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, and once per turn, you contribute a Link monster this card points to destroy any number of cards your opponent controls up to that monster's Link rating. This is the pinnacle of our trees, at least at time of writing, and it packs a real punch. Trading in any of your Links for removal is a good start, but despite its stat line, it can also be one of our biggest battlers, thanks to the card we'll be searching off of its summon. A line of play that will surely blossom into a win. Alright, that covers all the monsters, now it's time for the spells and traps. Sunvine Sowing is a normal spell card that special summons a Sunseed monster from your deck, and if you do, you take 1000 damage. If you control no Sunavalon Link monsters, you can only special summon Sunseed Genius Loci with this effect, and for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck except plant monsters, and if any number of plant Link monsters you control would be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your grave instead. This is one of our strongest extenders that we have on theme without a doubt. Because this is searchable with Dryas, you can immediately get the best effect from sowing, and that damage just means that you're getting a Sunvine, probably healer since you haven't gotten a big enough Link monster to make Thrasher a big threat. Add that protection effect from Grave, and you have a recipe for a big payoff once you get around to Sunvine Reaping. Sunvine Crossbreed is a continuous spell card that tributes a Link monster, then targets one other plant monster in your grave and special summons it, but negate its effects. Notably, this contributes any Link monster, so if you're running off-theme options like the very popular Link Karibo, that's a viable tribute for this on top of our theme's many monsters. Now, because this negates the effects of the summoned monsters, we won't be able to utilize anything in their text boxes, but it is still useful for getting plant monsters with high Link ratings to help accelerate our climb, as well as getting tuners or monsters with particular levels to make synchros or exceeds. Or, heck, it's just something you can use to get Sunseed Genius Loci back, whatever floats your boat. Really, as long as it has some modicum of utility, any plant is breedable in this deck. Sunvine Shrine is a continuous spell card that you can activate by sending a card from your hand to the grave while you control a Sunavalon Link monster. You can't special summon monsters from the extra deck while this card is on the field, except plant monsters, and once per turn during your main phase, you can special summon a level 4 or lower plant normal monster from your grave. And once per turn during your opponent's end phase, you can send this face-up card to the grave, then target a continuous trap card in your grave and set it to your spell and trap zone. That last effect will become relevant when we cover our next card, but keep in mind that this is generic, so if there's any other continuous traps you want to recycle, Shrine has you covered. Though, to be honest, I find this card to otherwise be pretty mid. You have to pitch a card to play this while you have an Avalon on board, and all it does is get you back Loci, or maybe like Angel Trumpeter. If it could summon back Gigaplant, that'd be one thing, but the level limit kinda hampers that. It's not like we lack discard synergies and plants as a whole, but I think there are better payoffs for it than just one normal monster per turn and maybe a recycle. Might have something to do with how dilapidated it is. Look, I can see you're going for the old man-made structure overtaken by nature deal, it's very on brand, but at this point, just make the shrine out of other trees, or like a big old mushroom. I'm sure you'd get a lot more use out of it. Sunavalon Bloom is a continuous trap card that, when activated, if you control a Link 4 or higher plant monster when this effect resolves, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls permanently. During damage calculation, if your plant Link monster battles, you can activate this effect, and it gains attack equal to the combined attack of monsters it currently points to until the end phase, even if this card leaves the field. This is the card we're going to be searching off of Trentier, and it is a doozy. Having a searchable, quick effect Dark Ruler no more is something your opponent's gonna have to be on the lookout for, and it gets even better. You know all those Thrashers you've been summoning up to this point? You know how they're gonna get really big because Trentier is a Link 4? Well, with Bloom's effect, you're gonna suck up all that attack power, turning this monster into a Titan on the battlefield. And it's not just gonna take the attack of your Thrashers, but all the monsters it points to. On theme, off theme, plant, non-plant, caffeinated, decaffeinated, you name it, and it's all food for our towering tree. It's such an explosive card, it even comes with its own bespoke sound effect. Kabloom! Alright, those are all the cards in the archetype, now it's time for a little combo. For this one, we're gonna need a plant monster we can normal summon, and any way to get Sunseed Genius Loci onto the field without using our normal summon. So Unexpected Die or 1-for-1 will do nicely. Summon out the seed, then link it into Dryas. Use its effect on summon to get Sunvine Sowing, then activate it, special summoning Sunseed Twin from your deck, then taking 1000 damage. This will trigger Twin, summoning back the Loci, and the Dryas will heal you for 1000. Then you can summon a Sunvine from your extra deck. At this point, we really just need a body, so Gardena will do, but that means you're playing Gardena, so maybe just summon a Thrasher. Now, you have 4 material on board, so we can go absolutely ham. Next, we'll normal summon the plant monster in hand, then link it and Dryas off for Aromaseraphy Jasmine. Then, we're going to link our Sunseed Twin and Thrasher off into Sunavalon Daphne. Now, we can link the loci into Sunvine Healer, and now we have a target for its life point gaining effect, getting us a search off of Jasmine. Note, this is one of the reasons the limit was so painful for the deck. Previously, you could just turn Twin into a second Dryas and not need the extra normal summon. Anyway, from this point, you can add any plant from your deck to your hand, and Jasmine can contribute the healer to summon any plant from your deck. There's a lot of branches this can go off into from here, but for now, let's say the monster that you search is Snowdrop the Rika Fairy, and the monster you summon is Mardell, Generator Boss of Light. Insert obligatory dire reference here. Mardell will grab you any other plant monster from your deck, and Mudan is going to be a keeper. From here, you contribute the Jasmine to special summon Snowdrop from your hand, who will then bring out the Mudan, which will search you Rika Concon. Now, you can have Snowdrop target Mardell to turn everything into level 9. Overlay the two into Sacred Tree Beast Hyperiton, then activate the Concon at this point, because now you can use Hyperiton to target the sewing in your grave and attach it as Xyz material for a spell negate during your opponent's turn. Not to mention that Concon now searches you more interruption in the form of Sheet. This leaves you with a Mudan and a Daphne, and if you have a way to get another plant monster on board, for example if your normal summon earlier in the combo was World Caratway Champion and you have an additional plant in hand to pitch for its summon, you can contribute that to shuffle back the Dryas and the healer to use again later. But regardless, you can link the Daphne and the Mudan into Sunavalon Melius, which in turn summons back the loci. And now you can link those two together into Bangalancer the Resurgent for some quick effect bouncing during your opponent's turn. So to summarize, you have a quick effect monster bounce during anyone's main phase from Bangalancer, a monster or spell negate from Hyperiton, and a way to tribute an opponent's monster and negate the effect of another one while taking it with Sheet, being supplemented by Concon. All of that off of only 2 cards and your normal summon. And if you think that's wild, just wait until we see some of the tech picks we can add in. Alright, so that's all of these Sun Avalon cards, but what do we do with them? Well, as we alluded to over the course of the video, the idea is to utilize our cards as an omni-plant bridge, tying together other on-type themes to get the most out of them. Also, we can overwhelm our opponent with advantage, whether it manifests as negates, removal, or big ol' monsters. So we need to lean into as many plant synergies as possible so we can mulch our opponent and turn him into fertilizer to enrich our tournament run. So what can we play to help them out? We covered a lot of the relevant Rika support during our combo, but not all of it. Rika Petal is a search card for every monster in the theme that keeps reborning itself during your opponent's end phases, and Rika Princess is a free special summon from hand, a godsend if you hard draw the loci with no way to special summon it, because this lets you do the combo as normal. On top of that, it's a negate that you can use from the grave that combos with Concon, freeing up the field spell to search you a card like a Glamour instead of Sheet, that way you can grab more of your combo pieces. When it comes to the Aromage half of the deck, there's been a huge boost to it thanks to the update it got in Phantom Nightmare. Aroma Lilith Rosalina is a fantastic summon off of Jasmine if you don't have a spare normal summon for that combo that we mentioned earlier. We contribute off the Sunseed twin to special summon Rosalina, letting us summon a non-tuner Aroma from the deck, and Laurel is our best option, as we can link it off with Rosalina to make a second Jasmine, triggering the life gain off of Laurel. And guess what? The search effect of Jasmine is a soft once per turn, meaning you're going to get 2 searches off of your 2 Jasmines. If you use those searches to get Snowdrop and Mardell, you can basically do the previously mentioned combo with the added bonus of not having to touch your revived loci, which keeps it available for a number of options later on. And that's not even the end of it. Let's go ahead and turn that loci into a Thrasher, that way we have 2 in graveyard to use the Sunseed twin at some point just in case. Then we can link the Thrasher and one of the Jasmines into Aroma Lilith Rosemary to search out any Aroma card from our deck. And Aroma Blend not only gets us our choice of Wind Continuous Trap cards immediately face up on our field, which are the cards that give Aromas their oomph, you also likely have enough life points to use the Miracle Fusion mode of Blend to fusion summon Aroma Lilith Magnolia, which provides effect destruction protection while your life points are higher than your opponent's, non-targeting, banishing removal based on the number of Aroma Wind cards we have access to, and at this point we have at least 1, and a board wipe attack boost that turns our Saprolings into superheroes. If you want to go for broke, another great plant link option is Sylvan Dance Peony. You potentially get 2 plants off the top of your deck, and while those monsters can't be used as link material, Dance Peony can level modulate the monsters that it points to, potentially letting you make a Hyperiton if you were forced to send Mardell to grave early. While not available yet in the TCG, we should also keep an eye on how these can synergize with Rika cards, since plants are one of the covered themes. Marikobe is a great way to access the rest of its theme, with Ryurin Kuruizaki giving your team a nice buff and our opponents a nice debuff. Not to mention an even better consistency boost. Yahazu Kamikiri can recycle your Genius Loci in case you need to make more Sunvines the legit way, and while Mushidokuro is the only link we can make while under a plant lock, its self-revival actually gives us the option of putting a Dryas or healer from our field back into our extra deck so we can use it later. Not to mention they recycle your Rika main deck monsters, which includes Yahazu, which then gets us our plant monsters. We can also potentially make great use of an Infinite Forbidden card that was just revealed, Astral World Tree Illumistil. Remember Ghost Sister and Spooky Dogwood? Well, Spirit Tree basically has its effect all the time with no downsides. And, as a quick effect, you can pay life points in multiples of 1,000 up to a cap of 3,000 to have it gain that much attack power permanently. So you could burn 3k on this summon immediately to make this a 5,000 attack monster, pass it over to your opponent, dare them to summon a big field in the face of it, spend another potential 3,000 later once they've special summoned enough, and then if you can do the same thing back on your turn, you have an 11,000 attack plant link monster ready to close out the game on the spot for you. As for a silly tech pick, well, Cactus Bouncer does exist. The combo update we talked about involving Aroma Lilith Rosalina does maintain your normal summon, and while you can't special summon Cactus Bouncer, it is very searchable. Though, we can even pull this off even if we did use our normal summon. Instead of linking off Rosalina, pair Laurel with the leftover Sunvine Thrasher to make a second Jasmine, and with your searches, get both Mudon and Cactus Bouncer. Tribute one of the Jasmines for Mudon, summoning it, then getting the Con search. Activate it, getting all of its effects while you still have a Rika, then sync the level 6 Mudon and the level 1 tuner Rosalina for Circle of the Fairies, which grants you an extra plant or insect normal summon. Not only does this still leave you with a Jasmine and a Revive off the Sunseed Twinning Graveyard should you need it, Circle of the Fairies has its own built-in life gain effect to get you even more aroma triggers. Not to mention the Con can do all kinds of stuff for you from this position. Alright, that's all the info I have about Sunavalon, but how does it stack up against the Nova scale? Novelty. Link spam decks are pretty common, which is kind of the norm when your summoning mechanic is the one being newly introduced during your season. The question here is, how does it accomplish that? And I think it's got a cool spin. The extra monster zone is treated more as a space for a support monster while you spawn all of your actually threatening monsters via the core monster's effects. And I think that's enough to warrant a 3 in Novelty. Objectivity. In terms of balance, the cards themselves are more than fine. It's true that Thrasher is pretty strong, but you do need to make a really solid investment to your board to make that happen. The biggest problem, if you can call it one, is how well it gels with the rest of the plant pool. I can't think of a currently relevant plant card that this doesn't help us get access to, and that could cause some problems for design down the road. But those are functions of other archetypes that we work with, not necessarily our own. I can't really blame Sunavalon for the searches that Aromas and Mardell are facilitating, so Sunavalon get a 5 in Objectivity. Versatility. Like we said just now, this deck works with basically every plant card in the game, and as long as we avoid plant locks, we've also got a lot of options for accessing the link pool, and we know how far links can get us, so this gets a 3 in Versatility. Awesomeness. Honestly, this thing kinda slaps. It's got a specific core monster, a Sunavalon that grows and grows over time, summoning out branches that provide a number of different effects, and we can supplement them with very good off-theme options. And even after some unjust hits on the ban list, there are many ways to play around them thanks to its ability to lean on that outside support. So Sunavalon gets a 5 in Awesomeness, which means they walk away with a 16 out of 20 on the Nova scale. And that's all I have to say about Sunavalon. This deck is pretty cool, and I'm so happy to see it benefit from the skill, talent, and dedication of powerful duelists, reaching heights that were thought unachievable by other duelists. It's honestly my favorite genre of deck, and when done well, really is the pinnacle of what Yu-Gi-Oh! Is all about, at least in this humble Yu-Gi-Tuber's opinion. After all, everyone loves to root for an underdog. But now, I want to hear what you all have to say. Are Sunavalons a fruitful approach, or are they starting to dry up? And which one's your favorite? Me? I'm a big fan of Thrasher. Yeah, I know, I like another thing with swords, sue me. Let me know your favorite down below, and if you haven't already, please be sure to like the video if you liked it, subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and share this video with somebody you know who loves Yu-Gi-Oh! It really does a lot to help me out. Today's episode is brought to you by my lovely patrons, as well as the lovely people over at Dragon Shield. Get the sleeves as strong as dragon scales and save 5% on your order by using the coupon code GoldenNova at checkout. Today's episode was also brought to you by my lovely patrons, including this month's illustrious Quasar Commanders Sir Knight JCB and the Critic of Innocence, Nebula Navigator's 3rd Dynasty, Ada Basilisk, Adam Zajdel, Anansi Dragon, Andrew Newman, Kane Senpai, Christopher Fuss, Clockswork, Emony Chan, Eric, Aaron the World Breaker, Frankie, Garland Chaos, Green Knight, Gloomba 331, Great Big Pillock, Groog, Hairbear, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Howling Zangetsu, Iron Zero, Iskander 711, Carp, Mana Charge, Marion Jamesy Picata, Mega Combi, Millennia Asta, Muzuki Clark, Nathan Vig, Natiel Lee Alexander, Orozco 09096, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Red Eyes Jackalow, RJ the Jank Monarch, Sammy Haim, Serenity Towns, Sky Buster Leo, That One Dumbass and the Wizard Moose, Cosmic Crusaders Alpha Sly, Almento 5010, A Random Pup, Ariel Kersey, Baron Von Titty Sprinkles, Beluga Master, Blitzwolf, Blue Gem, Borger with a Shotgun, Callum McCann, Chaz Ghost, Childish Lamar, Dr. Reaper RIP, Drachenwald, Eki Bullock, Eva Padilla, Hike Boyagian, Herbal D, Ignis Heat the True Draco Slayer, Inblink, Jester Designs, Kale the Dragon, Kevon Public, King Scarlet Yu-Gi-Oh!, Lemon Yu-Gi-Oh!, Manga Pages, Marluxia's a Girl, Matt Simmons, Mick Spoofy, Michael Shimabukuro, Nitromo, Obsidian, Ramen Resurrect-chan, Shizuki Nijimura, Sophie, apparently, Stephen Williamson, Taylor Seymour, Terror Top to 3, the Legendary Raven, and Zeldreka, as well as the lovely Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you'd like to help me in my journey to cover all of Yu-Gi-Oh's archetypes, get my videos early, be a part of these credits and other awesome perks, it would mean the world to me if you checked out the link to my Patreon in the description or consider joining as a YouTube member. And if you'd like to see a video about the archetype that's here to support plants as well as insects and reptiles, check out this video covering Rika. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.